Hey guys, got a customer's engine in here. I just did a video on talking about head gaskets, using a 6.7 head gasket on a 5.9 common rail. So go check that video out. I will talk a little bit about it here because I want to show what the detrimental, I shouldn't say completely detrimental issue, but the issues that we found with this engine, just to help you guys out if you're going into building an engine, or questions to ask. If you're having an engine built, if they're using this or using that or doing this or doing that, or if they're not doing it, that type of thing. So anyways, we got this engine in here. Shop actually brought it in for us to look it over, see what's wrong with the engine. And what we found, so what we found was number 5 cylinder. That is the piston out of it. So the piston is cooked. This is the piston. This is the engine that I did the testing, the injector testing, that had the cracked nozzle. For you guys that watched that, this is the engine that those injectors came out of. That wasn't the only problem we had found. So another problem we found was, well, we found a few problems. That ain't a great one. Another problem we found. Okay, so what we got here is we checked this thing out and we found an issue. Well, all the cylinders are roughly the right size except for this one. This one's 40 thou over, and it had one 40 thou piston in it. So this one may fitty in the other cylinders. Now, the issue that I have with that is that a lot of people, you don't see it very often. Most guys do not do this. But if you have 5 cylinders that are 20 thou over and one that's 40 thou over, the potential in power, which maybe not crazy difference, but the potential in power on this cylinder that's 40 over is higher. So if you're shooting the same amount of fuel into this cylinder as you are this cylinder and the flow is the same, this cylinder will make a little bit more power because the bore is bigger. So it is a no-no to put a 40 thou piston when the others are 20 or standard and 120 or whatever it may be. That is a no-no. How much difference? I don't know how much difference there is, but the old boy that originally showed me a lot about this stuff told me, you're stupid if you do this, so don't do it. And he was building, engines for years and years and years. So I'll take his word over somebody that does this. So that is an issue. On to another issue that we found. This was supposed to be, so I'm being told, was supposed to be a performance engine. Now, something that we found with it is it still has P-series bearings in it, which there isn't anything wrong with P-series bearings. Don't get me wrong. The P-series bearings are fine. They're good bearings. But if you're building a performance engine, I personally would have thought it would have H-series bearings in it, mains and rods. Does it need them? Probably not. But in a performance engine, that's usually what I would use. Now, at the time, if you can't get the bearings, as long as you're not charging the customer for them, then so be it. Now, talking performance engine, this engine was supposed to be good for 800 to 900 horsepower. This is what I'm told. Now, like I said, the P-series bearings, nothing wrong with those bearings, and the bearings weren't damaged. So, but I would have thought that they would have done that. Also, I would have done an oiling upgrade on it, which also was not done. But another issue that we found is the O-rings, which I've done this before, were cut for a 6.7 head gasket, which you can do. I'm not saying you can't do that, because you can do that. But the issue, oops, let the head gasket down. The issue is if you look, it's a head gasket, all fine dandy for the head gasket. If you look here, you can see where the oil hole lines up here. And you see where I've marked it with the red Sharpie marker there. Now, if we go over to the block, and look at it here, the issue, you see where I have the Sharpie marker there? There's no hole. So the oil hole is behind the gasket. Now what they're relying on is the oil being shoved past the gasket, which does have like an embossed in the gasket. So a little bit does get by, but not very much. So if you're gonna run one of these gaskets, which you can do, if you're gonna run one of these gaskets, what we do is this, the engine now has to be a part to do this, is we take, oh, I actually marked it down here. I take a carbide burr and I open the hole up so that basically where that mark is, you open that hole, you do, here, let me show you. You basically open this up like this on an angle so that the holes join each other. So if you don't do that, you will have oiling issues. So like I said, you can use 6/7 head gaskets. You just have to make sure you do that change to the block. Now, if the block is together and you have one like this, you can modify the head gasket to fix that. And what you do is you just take, instead of doing it on the block side, you do it on the head gasket side. You just have to notch some of this out. But obviously that's, you gotta be careful, because if you run the burr across here, then the head gasket's garbage. I prefer to do it the other way. And then if you ever do a head gasket and the guy that's doing the head gasket does not know to do that, a stock 6/7 head gasket will go on there, but you need to know that it has a 6/7 head gasket in it, because otherwise your rings won't seal properly and blah, blah, blah. Now, something else we found with this thing was it was supposed to have performance valve springs. It does not have performance valve springs. It has stock valve springs. There, again, I do not know what the customer actually paid for. I'm only going off third party. So if you are having an engine built, make sure, please make sure that you ask, you know, like I put right on my bills, 103 valve springs. You know, if I've used a 6/7 head gasket, I mark in there, use 6/7 head gasket, modified block to use 6/7 head gasket, O-ring set for 6/7 head gasket, that I do that. So if you are, and then right here, something else that I found, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. You can see it really good in person, but right in between those yellow line or white lines, you guys, like I said, I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but there's a crack right in the middle of there, like a pretty gnarly one. So this head's junk. So kind of sucks for this guy, because this, I believe, so I was told it was supposed to have some porting done. It was supposed to have some porting done, which it does not have any porting done whatsoever. Nothing. It's a completely stock head. So anyways, just thought I would go through, and talk about this thing a little bit. So please, if you guys are having stuff built, just ask the question, what are you guys doing with this, and how are you doing this, and how are you doing that? That's part of the reason I started this channel, was to help you guys be able to navigate. Like, don't get me wrong, I'd love to build everybody an engine, but it's not a feasible thing, especially being that I'm in Canada. It's really hard for the shipping back and forth. If I lived down in the States, I'm sure I honestly, if I lived down in the States, I'd probably sell 10 times the engines, probably, because the population is larger. It is what it is. Or I shouldn't even say the population. There's more guys that are interested in having an engine built, per se. You know, and it is what it is. At this point, you never know. One day, maybe I'll be down in the States. So anyways, not a real long video. Actually, I don't even know. No, I guess it's a little longer than I thought it was going to be, but I just wanted to go through and talk about this. And the thing did also have factory rods in it too. So if it was a performance engine, factory rods, performance engine, one of those things. There again, I do not know what the customer paid for. So I'm getting told performance engine. Maybe it wasn't a performance engine. Maybe he thought it was a performance engine. I'm not really sure. Anyways, just thought I'd do a little go over on that. Something that, you know, you want to ask, especially if you're having an engine repaired per se. You know, it shouldn't have one cylinder that's 40 over and the rest are 20, or standard and 40 or whatever. Don't do that. So anyways, like, subscribe, hit me down in the comments, and thanks for my Patreons, and we'll catch you on the next one. Keep your shiny side up.